If you're an expat and want to beat the reentry blues, this is for you. All right. Hi, Krisha. Thank you for joining me in part 3 of this series on expat vacations. If you haven't checked out the videos before, Krisha has joined us on a special series about how to make the most of expat vacations. We talked about what do you do before you go in terms of planning while you're on that long haul flight, how to make the best of your vacation once you're there from a health and lifestyle perspective. And now we're going to talk about what I call the expat reentry blues. And for those of you who haven't seen my work on that, the expat reentry blues is that slump you get in when you land back to your location where you live and you kind of are feeling the disconnect from the great memories that you created on vacation with your family or with the people that you spent time with. So Krisha, thank you for joining us on this third of the 3-part series. It's been so nice to have you.
Thank you so much, Sunday. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be able to speak to your audience.
Okay, so if you don't know Krisha, you have to check her out. She is a health and wellness expert, and she is a bit unconventional in the sense of she steps out from the crowd and says, you can have what you want without completely limiting yourself or without counting calories. And she focuses on the holistic approach to health and wellness rather than just dropping weight. And one of the great things about it is if you start taking care of yourself from a health and holistic wellness perspective, your body will just balance out itself naturally, so to speak. Is that in line with what you do, Krisha?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
once your body is happy, then it says, okay, I don't need this anymore. And it starts to shed the weight and the pain and anything else that it doesn't need.
Okay, exactly. So you might be asking, why do I have a health expert to talk about the expat reentry blues? And one of the things that we've learned from Krisha is that if we put in the right things in our body, that also helps regulate our energy, our endurance, and our mood. And Krisha, coming home after a big vacation can be hard for some people. I know when I live in Switzerland, a lot of the expats in Switzerland talk about not wanting to get on the plane and go back. And you think, well, why? This is such a beautiful country. And they're dealing with things that not everybody probably sees around missing home and going back to an environment that's hard for them to adapt to. And this applies for other places and is quite personal to the individual. So help me understand on the physical level, how do we get back on track if we've been on vacation and we've been indulging too much or totally out of our normal routine?
Yeah. I understand this so well. When I had lived in England for all those years and I would go back to Toronto and I was like, I really don't want to go back. So I understand that intimately. I think in the second video I talked about my number one takeaway tip was trying to stay while you're away as close to your normal routine as possible, barring whatever events and things that you have going on. So if you've done that, then going back home, re-entering won't be as galvanizing, because it's like, well, while I was there, I was still making sure I was eating well, and I was still trying to get my 8 hours sleep. I was still trying to manage my stress and do whatever it is that you normally do at home while you're on vacation. So it's like just a blip, there's just like that 24, 36 hour blip or whatever it is, and then you're back to normal again. But if you were, completely off the rails and like whatever, my biggest thing always is ditch the guilt. Because when you carry that guilt around, like, oh my God, I feel so horrible. I feel so gross. I shouldn't have eaten all that. I shouldn't have drank 17 bottles of wine. Like, yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know what I mean? Like, but you did, and here you are. And so now you just have to move forward. It's a new day. And so what can you do now to feel better in your body going forward? And if you already have a bunch of stuff that you're already doing, just restart those things. And if you don't, then take some of the tips that I've shared in these videos and start implementing some of those. Like we talked about lemon water in the first video, and stress management. And there's so many little things that you can start to pull into your day-to-day life to help like regulate if you're not already there. But I think the biggest thing is just not to feel guilty about, whatever you indulged in when you were on vacation, because that was vacation and that's for, but hopefully what's that?
Yeah, to look ahead and say, okay, now that I feel like crap, what do I want to do to change this? Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want to look back at your vacation and be like, and just be thinking about the negative of it, like you want to remember, oh, it was so nice seeing Aunt Sally and Uncle Roger or whatever, my best friend from high school, or, to go on that really cool city tour or something, whatever. You want to remember that. And even though your body might be talking to you and telling you something different, like, God, you feel like crap, don't indulge in that, right? Like just, okay, what can I do now to feel better? What can I do to support my body so that it feels better? Well, I know on reentry, I need to, like we did on the way there, I need to give myself, 36 hours. So don't go to work the next day. Like that's insane, Everybody needs to be regulated. And especially if you've got kids, you need to make sure that like you are second to them, right? So you have to make sure that they're regulating as well at the same time. So give yourself that reentry time.
I think people, they want to spend as much time with their family as physically possible, and they underestimate or don't take into account the toll it has on them when they get back. And that creates then a feeling of this low feeling once you get there, like I feel like crap and now I have to go to work and now, so it doesn't give you that soft landing. Let's jump to the emotional side. So sometimes people, I've even heard of clients crying on the airplane, like where they didn't even want to get in the airplane. Yeah, like really having a hard time. And one of the things I have recommended is you need to think about what's wrong, where you're going, and what sort of relationship connection are you looking for about what you missed back home. So there's some emotional side there. But what about the health side? Like what can you do? What can you eat or drink to make you feel good and happy? And what can you do to like avoid a low mood when you're in that funk?
Yeah, well, I think I don't think that you should avoid, because avoid makes it worse. Anytime we're sitting in any kind of avoidance, it will then shift over to aggression, and then we're just constantly living in this like avoid aggression, and we're never feeling like centered. I think it's totally fine to have these feelings, to allow them, to explore them, to journal about them, to talk to people about them, whatever. But allow them to be there. But it's the indulging and letting it carry on for like weeks on end. That's like, you gotta rein that in. But also I think too, in terms of the food, if we're turning to food in that instance, then we're using that as an emotional crutch rather than, if I said you should have these foods, then you're using that food as something to comfort yourself. And that's why they call them comfort foods. And there's a time and a place for stuff like that. But I think if you're that type of person to turn to food like that, then that's an issue. That becomes a crutch, right? So it's more about going back, going in and, feeling the feelings that you're feeling and getting proactive about like what you can do. I know for myself, when I was in England, I wasn't really happy there. And so it was like, okay, well, how do I find ways to be happy where I am until I have an opportunity to move back or move away or whatever, right? So it's like, looking at things with a different lens and seeing other ways that you can find happiness rather than sort of like indulging in the food that will provide you with that happiness.
I also think that people need to be careful about not making how they feel when they first land mean something bigger about their life there, because you're so thrown off from jet lag and dehydration and whatever else is going on that you need to be careful that you don't make any rash decisions or make something. So what you're saying is that there isn't a magic recipe on what you can eat or drink to go towards or away from the feelings that you're having, but keep sort of the basic health principles that you've mentioned throughout this whole series around focus on protein and the healthier foods, like the up foods, like green smoothies or hydrating with the water.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing this element of just really being present with what is.
Yeah.
Whether that's food or whether that's an emotion, that will help you get there.
Absolutely.
All right. So thank you so much. If there was one thing that our listeners could take away with how to really support our health and our well-being when we land and have the re-entry blues, what's that one thing that you could share with us?
I would say it's definitely taking the time to make sure that there are, again, I'm going to use this word again, self-care moments in your day. You know, where there's moments in your day where you're just reflecting, or you're taking a moment to actually be conscious of eating well, or, you know, having a bath, or doing a quick meditation, or going for a walk, or just sitting down for 5 minutes, you know, like just doing something that reconnects you to you, so that you're not all in your monkey mind all the time, because it's the monkey mind that drives us mental, right? And the only way that we can get out of the monkey mind is by stopping and being like hyper focused on whatever it is. So even if you're just sitting at your desk, like writing something, or you're brushing your teeth, or you're washing dishes, like whatever it is, just be uber focused and really pay attention to that. And that's called mindfulness. And that will help you pull you out of that monkey mind of all the shit that's bothering you up here and bring you into the present moment. You can like appreciate what's going on and calm yourself down and then be refocused.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Krisha. That is not to be underestimated, the powerful nature of
Yes, it's very powerful.
If you want to learn more about Krisha, you can check out her website at krishayoung.com. You'll find her details in the description and in my newsletter. And you can find my article on the expat reentry blues as well. So thank you, Krisha, for joining us for this 3-part series. For any of you who are out there and haven't heard all 3 parts, you want to go back and check them out because it is well worth it. So thank you, Krisha, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And
Thank you.
let's be in touch. Thank you.